What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get a city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1314 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Getting hip to the hip. An evening for the Downey Wenjack Fund on September 1st. Save 10% with the promo code FOTM10. Pumpkins After Dark. Use the promo code TOMIC15 and save 15% this month at pumpkinsafterdark.com. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making her Toronto Mic debut, is Jane Siberry. Hi, Jane. Welcome to Toronto Mic'd.
Hi.
Beautiful backdrop. I'm just looking through your many windows there, and it's like a beautiful blue sky. There's like trees swaying. Whereabouts in the world do we find you today?
I'm on Manitoulin Island. And if I turn my mic around, you can see, I think.
Beautiful. You know, way better than Etobicoke. So I'm connecting with you from Etobicoke, and I understand you're an Etobicoke gal.
Yep.
So what part of Etobicoke are you from?
Two places. One was where Humber Valley School was at Kingsway and Royal York Road, and then further north. So two places.
I'm not far from you. I'm at like Lakeshore in Islington right now. So hello from Southern Etobicoke.
Yeah.
I had a few notes come in. I'm just going to like sprinkle these through at our chat. But Jeff Burrows, drummer for the Tea Party, when I said you were making your Toronto Mic debut, he wrote me to say, Jane is a gem of an artist.
Well, Jeff, thanks. That's nice. I like the word, I like being called an artist, I guess, as in that I care about what I'm doing. Maybe just strike that, Mike, because that wasn't very significant and I can't explain it.
Oh, listen. This is just a casual conversation here. So, don't worry about significance. We're just going to shoot the breeze for a bit. Hawksley Workman wants me to say to you that you are so cool. So shout out to Hawksley.
Yeah. Hawksley, I'm sorry, I can't just be blasé about it. Cool. What do you mean cool? I'm cool. I guess that's good. So I'm so boring that way. I'd have to hear every single word and what they mean.
But I'm fascinated that you could consider the word cool to be anything other than a positive attribute. Like, I would just love someone to find me cool.
Huh. I don't know if you're cool. I would love to do that service for you, but I can't say. I'm so sorry.
No, listen, I don't think I'm particularly cool, but I do want to shout out the very cool Blair Packham because he's the reason we're talking today. Blair connected us, so thank you, Blair Packham.
Yeah, Blair, I guess I know you better than the other two people, but from experience, I think you're a big-hearted person who gets nervous when you see me getting ready to ask you a question on stage.
I love the idea of Blair Packham getting nervous. You know, he's performed a million times. Not much makes him nervous, but Jane Siberry does.
I may be wrong. I'm often wrong.
Well, we'll find out during this chat here. Would you mind, again, I don't know when the last time you were asked about Java Jive. But would you mind just help me understand the Jane Siberry origin story? I mean, back in Guelph, you were in a group called Java Jive, right? Do you mind sharing a bit of that story with me?
Yeah, that was where I first started playing. I played alone and then met Wendy, and we both loved doing harmonies. So we played together for a while, and then we added a bass player, singer, John Switzer. And then I guess it went downhill from there till I was on my own again, and then added John again, and then Ken Meyer from Guelph, and more people. I'm being facetious, and I should be careful because I don't want to. I loved playing with Wendy, so it was just how things evolve. And when I worked with John, I had a huge change because all of a sudden I was playing with really good musicians, and I didn't have to. I could write beyond my guitar or piano ability, so that was huge. And yeah, but playing with Wendy, we both loved harmonies. She was a really good songwriter, and we had a lot of fun just driving around in her Volvo to like little local things. Like Ottawa was as far as we got, and then Kingston maybe, and Guelph and Toronto, and it was really fun.
Okay, that was Java Jive, and then you went solo.
Yeah, solo plus.
Solo plus here. Okay, now, as you can imagine, and I'm wondering how you feel about this as an artist, but when I said Jane Siberry was going to come on Toronto Mic'd, I got many, many questions about one song in particular very early in your career, because this is on your second album, No Borders Here. But I'll just shout out a few of them, and then I want to hear you speak about this song. But Tom, for example, said, I've always wanted to know why the first record is not on Spotify. I loved Mimi on the Beach. So again, Mimi on the Beach on the second album. So we'll address Tom before I move on to Paul Myers, who you might remember from the scene. But why is the first record not on Spotify?
I just haven't got it together. Haven't had the headspace, or a lot of these things I have sort of been without a safety net. So I either have to figure it out, or if I have money to hire people. But I actually have just moved everything to a new company, and they've been scrupulous going through the catalog, and they're just about to put everything everywhere. But there were complications because some of my catalog's on Warner Brothers, and they didn't have my other stuff, and then I couldn't get into my account because there's confusion and yeah, that's just how it works. And people think things are done magically, but often it's a lot of like manpower on the end of the artist, and I just can't I just can't do everything, and I'm sort of like lost interest in a lot of the stuff. It's like, oh, I got a typo on that page. Well, forget it. I don't care.
Do you find these business parts, before I get back to these questions about the first big song, I suppose, in your catalog, but these business parts interfere with the artistry of what you're trying to do?
I had the luxury of not having to do as much of that when I first started, because I was signed by a few different companies. But then when I left Warner Brothers, I thought, oh, great, I have full creative control again. Not that I ever didn't have it, but the reason we came to an impasse is because they wanted me to work with a producer, and I knew what that meant. I couldn't sort of work to the nth degree of what I heard, which is all I care about. I wouldn't bother if it was something other than what I liked. So I left, and there was enough momentum because I wanted the freedom to learn all this stuff. So it gave me energy to do it. So, I took business courses. I learned how to, program websites and inventory software, all these things that I kept realizing, I better learn that too. I better learn that too. So I did put a lot of time into it, but and then at a certain point, I just let it all go. And I don't want to splay my focus on that too much anymore. And I realized a lot of it didn't really matter, didn't make that much difference.
This hesitancy to work with a producer, is that all about control?
Oh, yeah. If it, from where I'm coming from, other people, it's perfect, because I'm not sure what the difference is, but for me, I hear it in my head and there's a pressure in me to get exactly that kick drum or have the piano at a certain level of the mix to be felt in the heart. All these little things, it's hard for me to let go of. So maybe it makes me sort of hard to work with or not as open, but I have experimented a few times with producers and reconfirmed that it's not really the right thing for me anyway, much as I may love their work.
Yeah, I think that would be a difficult position to be producing Jane Siberry because, you have this very specific vision of how you want the song to be arranged and how you want it to sound, etc. And who would want to pollute that process?
Lots of people. I mean, especially I don't know. Different times people said if you had just turned left instead of turning right, you could have blah, blah, blah. Right. But to me, it wasn't an option. It's sort of, I think a lot of musicians, it's just not an option. You hear it and you go to the end. I don't know. I do anyway.
Interesting. Fascinating. Okay, now I mentioned Paul Myers because Paul Myers wrote me to say, ask Jane about eating at Mimi's on Bathurst back in the golden days of Queen Street West.
Oh, yeah. I loved, it was a musician's hangout. Mimi and Mark, her husband, had the coolest place at the Oakley steam baths. And sometimes when you go down to the bathroom, you could see these big guys, who've come in for their sauna and with towels and stuff. I don't know if they were they must have been from a different country than ours. They saw it as part of their routine. It was really cool, to sweat. Who knows if they were working somewhere where they really needed to have that afterwards, I don't know, chemicals or whatever. Sure. So Mimi would cook us whatever we want. She would smoke a joint. If you were from Scarborough and read about her on Top, blah, 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 breakfast place in Toronto, she would do her very best to be rude to you so that you'd leave her with her friends and artists. So it was just a vision she had and she carried it through. So I went there and often took my dog Wolfgang and he sat under the table, which meant I could be like an old shepherd who would walk his dog to the pub, giving the dog a good walk. And then, being able to eat and have a drink. So I would walk Wolfgang and then have breakfast.
Well, this Mimi who's basically being rude to people, cause just sort of it's sort of a punk rock mentality. But hearing you talk about doing everything yourself, like learning how to, maintain your own web page and learning business and et cetera, it sounds like you're cut from that same punk cloth of DIY.
Yeah, I would say it's the same cloth as, farmers and other people are cut from. You don't have a choice, so you just figure it out. It's just what you do. I think it's a healthy way to be, personally. What do you think, Mike?
Oh my goodness, you're preaching to the choir here. Absolutely. But I got to ask the big question because we're talking about Mimi's on Bathurst and you're talking about Mimi. Is that the Mimi from Mimi on the Beach?
No.
What a
it started as a song where I'm looking at an old photo and I'm saying to myself, I guess, that's me on the beach. Those are the people that I had such a strong reaction against. But then, I don't know, at some point it became Mimi on the Beach to shift it from just, I don't know, about me or whatever. So no, it wasn't. It came from the sentence.
What came first, the Mimi from Mimi's on Bathurst or the Mimi from Mimi on the Beach?
Maybe Mimi on the Beach was when I was still in Guelph.
Okay. I ask the tough questions here, Jane, so you gotta get comfortable. now again, now you're explaining it, but DJ Dream Doctor and Megan both wanted to know who's Mimi. But if I could play armchair psychiatrist here, which I probably should never ever do, but Mimi, the name Mimi is literally like it's M-I-M-I, but it could also be M-E-M-E. So if you were writing about me, Jane Siberry being the me, Mimi would be a very excellent name for such a subject.
Yeah, it was sort of natural. Yeah. But the thing about Mimi is when I did a video for it and had to sort of move into greater visualization of it, I realized that the right balance for me was Mimi should be a guy. It should be an androgynous boy. And I knew the perfect one, but the pressures of the record company, the directors, they didn't understand. But it was distracting that she had to be a girl because, in fact, she was like neutral, androgynous.
Right. Actually, I'm going to ask you about the video because I only recently learned a kind of a fun fact about the video. But first, if you don't mind sharing the role of CFNY 102.1 and Much Music, but particularly CFNY in the breaking of Mimi on the Beach. I mean, that sound really suited the station CFNY at the time.
This is not a locker room, and that's a surfboard, not a yacht. The arrangement's not quite there. One girl laughs at skinny guys. Someone else points out a queer. Well, they're all jocks, both guys and girls. Press the button, take your cue, and see the girl with perfect teeth. She picks up lonely guys in bars, and she takes off when they bought her drinks. Don't you have money? I ask, of course I do. This is not a locker room here, and that's a surfboard, not a yacht. The arrangement's not quite there. The day was faultless in beauty, pitched on tropical scenery, stretched from white sand up to the open sky, down to the shining sea again and back to me. And Mimi on the beach, Mimi on the beach, Mimi on the beach. Mimi on the beach, Mimi on the beach, Mimi and me. Well, I'm still sitting over here.
Yeah, Liz Janik, who was a host then, she's the one who heard it and sort of pulled it into the limelight. And it was, I think, already sounded derivative of Laurie Anderson's Oh Superman. Is that it?
Yes, that's
So
it.
it was the usual like knee-jerk thing, I think. But that's okay. Flukes happen, and the universe definitely works through radio stations. And so they started my career, and they also ended it in a weird way. So I got a lot of airplay, which was really fun. And then I was one of the first people's videos, so that was a bit of a fluke because the song was, not that usual. So I got a lot of video play for an unusual song. And then to just explain the sort of cryptic thing I said at the end,
Yeah.
I was at the Casbys, or was it the Junos? Maybe it was the Junos. And I was supposed to receive Corey Hart's award, and they made such derogatory comments about him, whoever wrote the script for it. These were other musicians, I think, or people, comedians or whatever. I was just so horrified by it. I just couldn't stomach giving him his award after that hypocrisy. So I said, I'm sorry, I can't accept it on his behalf. And then I think that, David Marsden, that very night he pulled me from the CFNY library forever and ever, I think.
Really? Okay, so, I mean, David Marsden has been on the show many times. It doesn't sound like him. So why would he? Because obviously, if it's an award for Corey Hart, it's not a Casby, it's a Juno Award. Casbys are like a David Marsden invention, a Canadian artist selected by you. They were the Unos. But why would he, punish you, the artist, for that stance at the Juno Awards? Very interesting.
Well, I think it might be good to verify it because it's been a long time, but Corey was very pleased, I do know. I didn't do it to please him, but I just couldn't stomach it. And like a lot of people, although I wish more people couldn't stomach things and said something, I feel like a bit of a fool sometimes. But maybe we're heading towards that. Wouldn't that be amazing, where the predominant type of people are like getting pulled from radio stations?
Well,
but just people saying what they think rather than being such a big gaffe. And then it sort of becomes like a snowball. I think it can. I think it's supposed to. And different times in history, I guess we've seen it. But anyway, I feel quieter now. I really don't want to draw attention to myself. I didn't mean to then either, but it's like, I got other things to do.
Yeah, well, you went about it in a very poor way because you will draw attention to yourself with a successful single that on an album that sold 40,000 copies and in a video that got on Much Music. That's a very bad way to stay quiet.
You're so right. No one's ever pointed that out to me. Thank you, Mike.
I'm here to tell you how to stay quiet. You don't make the video. Oh, I have the fun fact about the video coming up, but I do want to ask, it sounds like this is a negative experience in your life when you're removed from the 102.1 airwaves, but you did win a Casby Award for Best Female Vocalist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Maybe.
do you still have that, or is that something in the past that you don't hold on to?
No, but that was the most useful award I've ever had because they gave me a gold-plated microphone, which I used for years until it fell apart.
Oh, what a smart, is that something you can, something functional that you can use as an artist? That's a great idea.
That's great. The other awards, they either have to soak them overnight or, it's really, microphones are a good idea.
Great idea. I've heard stories about people winning, I think Junos, etc., and then they have to get an award, they have to pay for it. Like, these are the stories I've been hearing. Like, oh, they send you an invoice. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not how it should work, but that's not what they did for you.
I think a lot of people don't know either that to be even in the Junos, you have to pay to submit.
I just found this out because I was just told recently that I should enter this podcast award. They said you could win. And then I said, oh, I would like to win, maybe get more listeners. That's a nice idea. And then I found out you pay to be considered. And then I completely just walked away because even if it was 1 penny, on principle, I'm not paying a penny to be considered for your podcast award.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, we're in cahoots here. Okay. Now, one quick side is I find it fascinating that this song, which I've known my whole life almost, Mimi on the Beach, it's 7.5 minutes. Did anybody ever ask you at the label or something, hey, what if we had a 3.5 minute version for radio?
Yes, and they did.
Okay, they
Do
did.
it.
I'm not surprised. And you were okay with that as an artist?
No, that was my first experience with that, and then I'm thinking, well, then this won't make sense. And then the people hear it and say that person doesn't make sense, But I did. I tried it for them, and whatever. I don't know if people really listen to the words that much, but it bothered me. But then I did it. I've done a lot of things just almost for the experiment of it. How will I feel if I let London Insurance use one of my songs, and because of the song, it opens people's hearts, and when their hearts are open, they get tricked into buying insurance. So I didn't want to, but then I did. And then people wrote and said, oh, I love that London Insurance, remembering the company's name, So I do think we're here to learn more than anything else. So I do things where I'm going to learn, even if it might seem crazy sometimes. I've been a bit too precious in my past.
Live and learn, right? You need to, go through that to realize whether it suits you or not. You have to live it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, Megan, who wanted to know who Mimi was, but we've discussed that. But she also wanted to know what it was like working with, Hope I pronounced his last name right. Bob Bloomer.
Bloomer's correct. Oh, well, it was a dream. He is a fantastic guy, really creative. He had a business degree from Western. I was looking for a manager. I sort of talked him into it after talking to different managers, and it worked out amazingly. And I think he really loved the challenge of it, the creativity of it. And, he got a school bus at the beginning and decked it out like a tour bus. And he's really artistic, creative, great energy. So that was a huge gift to me in my life. Yeah.
He was host of the Surreal Gourmet. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, he's done a lot of TV work now on his own for his chef and ingenuity prowess.
Wow.
Genius prowess. Whatever.
Do you, Jane, remember who directed the video for Mimi on the Beach?
Yes, it was Dick. I think Dick is some name that I can't remember. I'm sorry, but
Okay,
probably.
Well, let me jog your memory just because I was watching it recently,
Mhm.
and I saw the last name Oleksiak.
Yeah, it sounds.
So Alexiak, and then I did a little Googling because I know an Alexiak. I know a couple of Alexiaks, and one happens to be the most decorated Canadian Olympian of all time. And then another's an NHL player. But it turns out the director of that video is the father of Penny Oleksiak, the Olympic swimmer.
Well, she wasn't born when we needed a Mimi.
No.
For the surfboard. That's too bad. But
No, but that's kind of a wild little coincidence, right? It's kind of wild that the person who directed your biggest, well, it's debatable, but your first big single eventually would father the most decorated Olympian in the history of this country.
okay. I don't find it that interesting.
No? Okay.
It's only moderately interesting, but not a huge thing, I wouldn't say. But I don't know if you'll find this interesting, but we were so new to the video scene that we actually had Mimi drinking from a can of Coca-Cola in the video until finally I said, I think you have to check that out because I don't think you can just do that. So it was cut. That's how new we were to it all. It was a frontier.
Amazing. Gord writes in to say, I'm a huge fan of her, going back to her first self-titled album, and I still enjoy listening to Above the Tree Line regularly. Her musical style has evolved a lot since then. I'm wondering, what's her relationship today with those early works?
Some of them I still love the curly cue of the melodies and the lyrics. And like I was remembering, it was a starry night and the snow had stopped falling. And I think that I heard someone sing Fly Me to the Moon. Okay, that sounds, sort of cute, but high above our upturned faces, booming in the brights, and some good things down on this earth tonight. And I love tracing that melody. It's sort of long. It doesn't repeat so quickly like I have done more recently. Some melodies are just a bit too like, I don't know, repetitious. I think it's because I would write them on the computer and just grab and copy and paste. But then I was like playing them on the piano till they sort of unrolled. But yeah, I think there's a through line from the first recording up till now that I'm so glad to see. It's not like I changed a lot. I've grown a lot, but there's a certain core that I see all the way through it, which pleases me.
Well, I'm glad, even though you didn't think my fun fact was that interesting. But again, I'm often, I will tell you, I often get kind of fixated on little trivial things that really don't mean much of anything, but I just think my brain just sort of blows and easily possibly. And you're probably right. It's not as significant as I like to think it is that Penny Oleksiak's dad directed the Mimi on the Beach video.
So I want to ask you why you do that, why you grab something less than what you, at this moment, think is significant enough and follow it without stopping yourself? You don't, is it like a lack of gut guiding you in time? Do you find you do that in other ways too? Or is it a goal of yours to like fine tune, to up the ante, so to speak? Or does it not really matter? I don't think it really matters. I'm just,
Right.
I'm just process of how your brain works.
Well, see, I think I'm interested in how your brain works. You're interested in how my brain works. But I happen to consider Mimi on the Beach one of the great Canadian singles. I don't even know why I have to qualify it like that, because all I really know is Canada, because I was born and raised in Toronto and I'm still here. Goodness gracious. But Mimi on the Beach, this popular video, when I was kind of just coming aware of music around me and when I was first discovering, videos, and to just draw that line many years later to, I happen to be a fan of I had Donovan Bailey here today, who won a couple of gold medals with Canada, and to consider that we're still active in Penny Oleksiak's career. So she's got another Olympics coming up. She's only like 21 years old or something, but she's already the most decorated. So I just think it's fascinating to take a thread from this single, Mimi on the Beach, which we would hear on CFNY and on Much Music, and then suddenly it connects many years later to the most decorated Olympian in the history of this country. See, I should just move on, but I still think that's a fun fact.
Well, when you say most decorated, all I see are twigs and and stuff. I mean, what do you mean most decorated?
Maybe I should explain that. So, in the history of this country's participation at the Olympics, both the summer and the winter games, nobody has won more medals than Penny Oleksiak.
Okay.
So that's what I mean by most decorated. So she has won the most medals in the the over 100-year history of this country participating in Olympic Games. And this is all silly sports stuff. So maybe you've just, that doesn't matter because it's just sports. But then there are people out there saying, oh, that doesn't matter because it's just art, or that doesn't matter because it's just music. Like, these are all things that sort of, inspire us and stimulate us and, help us kind of escape any harsh realities in this world we live in.
I think the through line for both Penny and myself are our love of something. It doesn't, the awards, as you know, are often the product of some kind of distortion or politics or something. So to lots of people, they don't mean that much, And as a matter of fact, having too many awards can be psychologically hard on a person, then they have to deal with maybe power that comes with it, or to accolades they feel they don't deserve. So their self-esteem goes down even lower. And then they I don't know. It's not what many people think it is. It's just,
but Jane, if I may, so art.
Say I.
Pardon me?
Did you say I?
I think maybe I do. Maybe I did. I think I said I, like I as an I, but art, we shouldn't even be awarding for art. Like, it's so subjective and it shouldn't even be a competition in art. But the difference is with athletics, right? With athletics, it's, we're going to swim 50 meters. The first one to get to the other side is the fastest. Like, it is a objective measurement of success, as opposed to art where we're ranking, I don't know, Martha and the Muffins versus Jane Siberry. Like, this is ridiculous.
Exactly. Well, most people see that, and definitely musicians don't relate to it. But I have a way of seeing music now that satisfies my understanding that art isn't good or bad. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, yes.
Because I struggled with that for a long time, and nothing made sense, especially all the academics speak at art galleries. It's like, this is disconnected from reality. Can I say what the reality is? I don't know, but it's separated from something very important, which is that, the artist can be a pipeline. Well, okay, that we create things that become batteries, and the more present we are, the more powerful the work, the more you can plug into it and charge up with inspiration, which is how we connect, I think, to the greater. Inspiration is the big pipeline. And so if you are inspired and you write it and you're present every moment, you charge up every single molecule of tape or sound or canvas or film, and then it's not good or bad. It's just really more how much energy the battery can hold, and the how much it can hold relates to how present you are. And when you're present, completely present, you're absorbed in it, you a lot of your own shit just is far, far away. You're inspired or something. So then it's not good or bad. It's just useful or not useful, and makes room for all kinds of batteries for different people. There.
But when did you come to this realization? Like, how, is this something you've believed for a long time, or did you just have this epiphany like this morning getting a bagel?
No, it's me puzzling over it for a long time, and wondering, why am I doing it? Why am I doing it? And now musicians, like, why am I deciding to go into really heavy debt every time I do a record? Like, it's crazy. It's nonsensical. Is it a vanity project? That's what I would say to myself. Is this just a vanity project if it's not being pulled naturally into the air? If I have to decide to do something bad, like go into debt, or other musicians. So it's come from a lot of thinking and periods of being jaded and maybe bitter. I could even use that word. But then knowing that I can't stay that place, I have to keep going till I find a healthy, positive way of seeing it, which I believe is the truth of it. It's music's healthy, it's positive, it's a privilege, all these things.
And in 2023, surely you can create this art with the music without going into debt.
Yeah, so you think. Like, I'd done a lot of the writing and arrangement all on my computer, but still, I didn't have the oomph to like go to the next step till I finally asked a friend to work with me as a co-producer, and we listen in a studio, her studio. So that doesn't cost money. But then we want to start adding strings, and we can't. We want real strings because they're beautiful and they have a different vibration than fake strings. And then the standards start going up, and you can't do it all in your bedroom. And sometimes I just need to be in a studio with someone to hear it on big speakers to know what the heck I'm doing.
Right. Good
so
point.
You can do it, but you can end up with a very rigid musical product if it's, I don't know, I feel it. I think a lot of people smell a rat. I do it really as efficiently as I can, but I know where it'll take away from it. And I just keep going till it's done, which means I never have a budget. Because I won't stop till, it's sort of done. Does that sound crazy?
No. In fact, hearing you talk about, because who am I? I'm no musician, but of course, if you want strings and you want real strings, well, there's an artist that needs to be compensated there. So I can see it. You think you have a shoestring, like you said, you don't have a budget, but if I were to start a shoestring budget, I'm going to do all this myself with friends. I could see that getting away from you because you have a very particular idea of how you want it to sound. And I don't get the sense you would want to compromise that vision.
Yeah, and I'm sick of telling people I have no budget for, like, I really like to pay musicians, and I really, often say, what's your standard rate? Not for corporations, but for, an artistic project, instead of asking for freebies from the very people who can't, make any money anyway. So it's, right. I do try to pay where I can properly, or the best I can.
But Jane, this is why artists like you, I heard a bank commercial and it had the Tragically Hip's Ahead by a Century in it, but obviously not their performance of it, but they had a little version of it or whatever. And I had this moment of like, oh, I don't like hearing the Ahead by a Century in a bank. And then I realized that like you could finance, and this is now that's a Tragically Hip song, but a Jane Siberry song in a bank commercial would give you the funds necessary to hire these artists, the strings, etc., and create the art that you want to share with the universe. So like at some point you got to get paid to produce your art.
I don't know, Mike, is it the devil, the temptation, or can you just wait it out a bit longer? Or I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but yes, it's true. And I've done that, Pay It Forward paid me a lot to do a version of Calling All Angels with a choir at the end.
Right.
Yeah. And that was for a movie, so that was okay. But yeah, it's in the long run, who cares? It's just a life. We're just a life. And if you believe that we create our own realities, we are either God and our humanness, or whatever word, greater, to learn and to return to the light in some beautiful blend that we already know. So it doesn't really matter if if it bugs our stomach or whatever. Just have fun, experiment, learn from it if you can. Don't be too precious. Sometimes I think I'd do a lot of things if it meant I could, pay cash bail for a whole jail. No problem. I'll do it in a flash. Or if my family needed help.
Sure.
So it's flexible integrity. So I don't know what that means, but do you have it or not?
Well, you
I
have to
think it's
eat,
movable
right?
for me anyway.
At some point, you need to eat. So, artistry and this punk DIY, no sellout mentality is all fine and good. But at the end of the day, you deserve a lovely space on Manitoulin Island, and you deserve to be able to buy the real strings, so you're not pulling some strings through some keyboard that aren't actual musicians playing. You deserve that, Jane, right?
I don't know if we can say that, but I want it. I want it, and I won't release the record till it's right. So it just takes longer. But yes, everything you're saying, yes, 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 and also no, 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 and also finally, let's just have a great time.
Captain Phil Evans was the promo guy at CFNY back when they were playing Mimi on the Beach, and he wrote in when he heard you were coming on Toronto Mike to say Jane Siberry played a solo show at the Ontario Place Forum, and I think that's a remarkable achievement, and I wonder what local faves would be able to put thousands of people in a venue that size now. Now, you don't have to answer that question. I think it's more rhetorical, but his point is there was a moment with your song all over the radio. Your songs are on Much Music. You're selling out the I believe you're selling out the Ontario Place Forum. You can't sell it, but you're filling up the Ontario Place Forum. This is quite the moment for you, Jane.
I don't think I was solo, but yes, it was my own show. Yeah.
I don't even know if you sell that. I remember I attended a few shows. I saw Chalk Circle, some other bands there, and I think it's just if you were at Ontario Place, you could go see performances at the Forum. That's how I remember it. But regardless, he says it was full with thousands of people.
Yeah, that was fun. That was the first time I experienced young girls showing up looking like me, which I found horrifying.
Why?
That was just the learning process. Well, why would they? I don't know. Oh, it was just new for me. But I do remember the chords, getting all tripped up in the chords. It's amazing what they did there. And so many people remember shows at the Ontario Place. I guess it was a pretty spectacular thing. And seeing things move is always very moving. So the people behind the stage, they'd be slowly moving. And then, yeah, that was amazing.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, if you're a younger person who doesn't remember the Forum, it rotated. The stage rotated, and that was pretty cool.
It was.
That's cool. And by the way, they could come looking like you, Jane, or they'll come looking like Madonna. This is what teenagers do. They emulate their musical heroes.
Yeah. No, I was just a young thing too, so sure. I don't know.
Okay. Cooking with gas here, because I realize I might take 6-7 hours of your life here. I'm sorry about that, but I do love the video for One More Color. It's got you walking a cow, and you win another Casby for that. These are before the falling out with CFNY, you're collecting these Casbys. So I guess I'm curious about what your thoughts today are on One More Color, and then I'll just do this very quickly, but earlier today I recorded a episode about covers of Tragically Hip songs, because there's this event I'm promoting on September 1st, and one of the covers is Courage by Sarah Polley, and it's in the great movie The Sweet Hereafter. I think that's from 97. But also on that soundtrack is Sarah Polley covering One More Color. So talk to me about One More Color, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I never heard her version, but One More Color, I learned something huge, because we did a video at first with a Toronto photographer, and I realized that photographers aren't used to working across time, that actually a filmmaker or a musician would be better directing videos. They work across time. So, and it was so literal that it was like, whoa, if you like the song, you're not going to like it now. So, when Warner Brothers didn't like it either in Reprise in LA. So we did one. They asked me to choose a director. It was amazing. They'd send, reels of directors. It was like they'd send portfolios of amazing photographers, waste a lot of money on FedEx packages going back and forth. And anyway, most of the photographers didn't have what I think is really important in photographs. They didn't have a light in the eye. There'd be no tiny white speck. And to me, that makes everyone look dead. I think that's like a super basic thing. So I learned from just looking at all this applauded work. Sounds like I'm being judgmental, but I guess I'm just, refining my aesthetic just from what I learned. Secondly, zerally, was that, photographers don't necessarily make good videographers. And then secondly was the second point I made that I've now forgotten. And then thirdly, I chose Jerry Casale from Devo to direct it. And that was okay, although he had created a puppet with cows, udders, huge udders. And I made him cut them off because they just were silly. They were silly. And it was, for me, fell into the category of cool, experiment, wow. But it wasn't sensible in my mind. And the fourth thing is, what was the third thing? Well, just, working with different people. It's wonderful, but it just wasn't great. And I don't like being the bad guy, but often I seem to be in that position because whatever, it's my work and I have to say something. Not to negate all the times when it has worked and things have exaggerated with hilarity and exuberance and excellence. But the final point I want to make is that sometimes you just have to have a video of the person singing the song in something that's not a bad background. You don't have to interpret it. You just have to see the person singing it. So I said, can I just walk down the road with a cow? And I think that worked better in my mind. I mean, there were a lot of bells and whistles, and they had Hollywood extras there, like, oh my God, and the house falls apart, and these people are okay. The most beautiful man who was handicapped was the inspiration for the middle part, where he's full of wonder at everything, and so that was interpreted into a lot of strange-looking people. So I forgot about that, but never mind. The point I wanted to make finally was that sometimes you just have to, if it's a good song, just sing it and don't take away from what people are already imagining in their heads.
Warning. Mimi on the Beach is a bit of an earworm. I've been singing it all week. What a jam. What a chat with Jane Siberry. Wait till you hear what happens next. But first, if you drink beer and you're in Ontario, you drink Great Lakes beer. That's an order. Family-run, fiercely independent craft brewery. They're hosting TMLX 13 on September 7th, 6 to 9 p.m. That's the Southern Etobicoke location. Be there, and you'll eat for free because Palma Pasta is feeding every FOTM who comes to this free event. If you have old technology, old electronics that you need to dispose of, don't throw it in the garbage. The dangerous chemicals end up in our landfill. Go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. What are you doing September 1st, 2023? I hope to see you at Getting Hip to the Hip. There's a promo code to save you 10%. It's FOTM10. Go to gettinghiptothehip.com and listen to the previous episode in the feed to learn details of what's going to go down. All Tragically Hip fans should be there. While you're buying tickets for cool events, get your tickets to Pumpkins After Dark now and you save 15%. This is an early bird discount with the promo code TOMIC15. Go to Pumpkins After Dark right now. Buy 4, 5, 6, 7 tickets. This is an award-winning event in Milton, Ontario, and you're going to love it. Pumpkins After Dark. Pop quiz, hotshot. Who have been pillars of this community since 1921? That's right. Ridley Funeral Home. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. Let's get back to Jane.
The goatless sledge lead, the humpless geese in the speckless sky. The speckless sky.
Wow. Okay, so I mentioned, and it's interesting to me you didn't listen to the Sarah Polley cover. If someone covers my song on a soundtrack, I'm going to be curious about their interpretation of it, their spin on it. But then again, I've never written a song worth covering, so what do I know? But that is interesting. You never listened to the Sarah Polley version of One More Color.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear the Rio Statics version of One More Color?
Yeah, I think I did.
That's on Introducing Happiness. And I'm going to ask you a question from Rainer here, now that I've said the R word, Rio Statics. But I also, as I go very quickly here, I want to just point out that you're, I would call it an anti-pop approach. You might disagree with me, but it's very commercially successful at this point. I mean, I see that the Speckless Sky sold like over 100,000 units, as they say in the industry, which is kind of fascinating when you consider it sounds like this is, you're not trying to create a product that is commercially successful. Or am I completely wrong on this, in which case you should let me have it?
No, I think I've had an awareness of what might be most pleasing sometimes, Mike. But I think I'm always trying to make it feel good on several levels. So the body, even if you don't listen to words, it feels good, best I can. And I think I do have sort of a populist bent in my writing. I certainly don't want to smoke people out if I can help it, although I have, I think. That it's got to feel good on some level. So, yeah, I don't want to be called elite or acquired taste or anything like that. I do want it to be like, work in the I'm part of the populace too. I would want it to work for me too. There's nothing like a pop song that is like you can hardly wait to get to the next part, right? And
right.
It's like honey. Really great pop songs, like, oh my God, I love this song. So I'm always aware of that too. I like that feeling.
So Rainer wrote in this is a segue off of the Rio Statics covering One More Color for Introducing Happiness. Now, Rainer writes in, "Hi, Mike. I see your post for questions for Jane Siberry. Take note of this article," and then there's an exclaim.ca article. "Read the 1993 section on Jane working with the Rio Statics. Dave Bedini described it as being, quote, tortured by Jane, end quote, and, quote, a musical marriage made in hell, end quote. Please peel back the onion layers on that one. What would you say to Rainer about this supposed Jane Siberry Rheostatics feud from the early to mid 90s?
I didn't have a feud with them. This is all a mystery to me. I was pleased to have them back me up for one show. I think it was Guelph Festival. And, I do remember one point in rehearsal where I did feel and maybe gave a look that I was finding it frustrating working with different musicians than I was used to, sort of a refinement or something. That was the only thing I remembered. And then I remember calling the drummer up about something after our show, and I was shocked that he thought we'd had a falling out. So I don't know what that's all about. They thought I deliberately held up my show at the Guelph Festival so that they couldn't go on, which was totally bizarre. I would never do that, and who would do that? But it was like they were all like in a different world. So that's in their mind, not mine. They were fine.
Well, I'm glad you're clarifying this because, that gets out there and then people maybe don't hear the, your side of things, which is, as far as you're concerned, there's nothing to see here. You don't know where this comes from.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What? It's just sort of surprising and ultimately boring. So no energy there.
In better news, Tess writes in to say, I still remember Jane Siberry at the Wiltern in Los Angeles back when I bought vinyl. Her song explanations were exquisite and her performance memorable. Red High Heels being my favorite.
Yeah, that was a fun show. Red High Heels is about getting drunk in the high plains of Newfoundland near Twillingate. So at the end she gets drunk and lies down in a snowbank and freezes to death. It's a very beautiful, comfortable death. She's just wandering off in her thoughts about what love is, and she's pretty sure she could make anyone love her if she really wanted to. But that's so nice that, the cool thing, Dave, is that people come forward with memories of shows I've forgotten about and lovely moments, and that's more what it's all about. It's not awards. It's not anything else. Like, those are like a string of moments that makes a life, beautiful and good on both ends, mutual usually.
Well, here's another moment from Scott, who says, looking forward to your interview with Jane Siberry. I've got a couple of questions, if you can squeeze them in. One, my favorite Jane album is When I Was a Boy. Just wondering why it's not available on iTunes. And I think this is probably what you explained at the beginning, where you're getting that shit together now. Or am I...
It is on iTunes.
Oh, it is.
Yes, I think, isn't it? I'm sure he's right, but it's I own the rights in Canada. Warner Brothers owns the rights in the US. That's part of the problem. But I think that this company is going to have my complete catalog up very soon, and complete. I hope so. Yeah. I also want to say I changed a couple covers, and I'm dropping one record, which was the Angels Bend Closer, because it was done not for the reasons. It was someone who really wanted me to be submitted for a Grammy, but you couldn't have already released the record. But she wanted to change it, and she wanted to foot the bill, and she was a dear friend. And so I said, all right, you do it, but I can't be involved or I'll have to be totally involved. So she did it on her own. She did a great job, but it's really not the director's cut. I don't like the artwork. I don't like certain production things that were added, like big drums, big guitars. It wasn't nominated. It did its job, whatever, and now I'm dropping it.
As is your right.
It's not.
Yeah.
Right. I hurt some feelings, but it just started to bother my stomach. So
that's a sign to cut it if it's bothering you. When I was a boy, by the way, Scott here says, what was it like working with Brian Eno? How did that come to be? Do you have any interesting Brian Eno stories?
Yeah, Brian had written to Reprise, Warner Brother, and said, "Why have you not done more with this artist?" Because he really liked "Bound by the Beauty," that whole recording. And so, in typical record company assessment, they thought that could be good for the next, So they asked him to produce my next record, which wasn't his goal. He just wanted to support another artist. So we did work together on 3 songs in England, and that was interesting to work. We're both self-produced in a way, so I enjoyed working with him. It was interesting. I learned a lot. He liked to get home by 7 every night to kiss his little girl or girls. He was really into his children. Good night before they go to bed, and it was lovely. And he added some beautiful things, but we haven't really stayed in touch since then.
You mentioned you Pay It Forward wanted you to re-record Calling All Angels, the Pay It Forward soundtrack, I guess, the movie. And that, of course, is a Katie Lang duet when it first appeared on, I guess it was I always get Wim Wenders Until the End of the World is where you first hear Calling All Angels, a duet with Katie Lang. But what was it like working with Katie Lang?
Well, she showed up in Vancouver at Mushroom Studios with a kerchief on and her tiny little dog who marched ahead of her, barking at everybody. It was really funny. Her Scout. And it was lovely. And we've always had a harmony between us, and we were in different vocal booths, and we knew it wasn't as good as it could be. So we just, without discussing it really, just moved on to the main floor together and sang in proximity, which is huge, as all musicians know, because you're working on different levels, not just sound. So that was wonderful, and we've continued to stay in touch. And she covered some of my songs on one of her records, and we did another duet, "Let Me Be a Living Statue," which I think is beautiful, although really wasn't heard because it was on a record I just released with an email. And it's a nice sister.
Nice. Hamilton, Matt. Now we talked about Pay It Forward. That was a pretty big movie with big stars, but that was no The Crow. Okay, so Hamilton Mike wants me to ask you about doing "It Can't Rain All the Time" for The Crow and being part of and this is Mike talking, and I don't disagree, one of the greatest alt rock soundtracks. How did that come to be?
Graham Revell in LA was involved in it, and I think it heard when I was a boy, and he really liked, I think, the song "The Vigil," because to me the vibe of "It Won't Rain All the Time" is very similar to "The Vigil." And so he asked if I would come and write a song with him. So I went to Hollywood, went to his fancy house, felt sort of that fancy unhappiness, worked in a studio, and wrote a lot of the words. And he was involved in the chorus. Yeah, I could not sing it. It can't rain all the time, which is what they say in the movie. It can't. So I changed it to "won't." Because I didn't believe it can't rain on. It won't. It was better. Right. So there's a bit of a thing, but and then it got remixed with Warner Brothers because I said the keyboards are out of tune and they're making the vocal sound weird, which was true. So I went into the studio with someone else too. I'm telling you way more than anyone else knows. And we fixed it, and I re-sang the vocals. And yeah, it's a synth you'll hear if people listen to the original version. It's flat, but it wasn't flat when I recorded it. So it's something he added later.
I love the details. Now, Stephen Hillier, ha ha ha, said, "Is it true that it can't rain all the time?" Ha ha ha. But what Stephen wants to know is, I'm throwing in the ha's, but okay. Stephen wants me to ask you, basically wanted to know how you ended up with that gig, but you've already explained that. And then Stephen wants you to know that he loved the movie, loves the song, and he particularly loved that movie because it introduced him to Alex Proyas. I hope I pronounced that right, but that was a lot of exposure to be on the Crow soundtrack for sure.
Yeah, that I saw the rough cut and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. And I watched it again and I realized I would been so wrong. It's an amazing film, really. The caricature, the storytelling in it, the acting in it, incredible. And then, of course, that the extra thing that Brandon actually died during the making of it, that mystery, etc. But yeah,
Yeah.
um,
So young, but what a great movie, like you said, and that's a great song. Now, when you signed into the Zoom for us to chat, and you probably signed in thinking this guy is probably going to take 15 minutes of my life, and here I am totally like exploiting you by taking much, much longer. But you were signed in as Issa Siberry, ISSA. And of course, I remember reading in the Globe and Mail about about you changing your name. Would you mind now? You also respond to Jane. I've been calling you Jane this whole time, but would you mind telling us succinctly here the story of like why did you change your name to Issa?
yes, I felt Jane Siberry had finished. I had certain quirks and vocalizations and this and that, and I completed it, and that everything else would be repetition, and I needed to stop feeling so heavy. It was the same time that I, decided I was looking out at my door, locking it at night, as I watched someone across the street in the park try to get comfortable on his park bench, and I felt so stupid, felt so silly. I thought, I don't want to live like this anymore. So I sold my house, got rid of most of my stuff, and changed my name and put my catalog, I guess, up to 14 records in order, archived them, fixed some of the artwork, and then went on tour and stayed where I landed, which was Brussels. Am I telling you more than you want?
Quite the opposite. I'm all about the
Anyway.
detail here. I love it, actually. I'm very interested in this.
I was, I played my final show. It was a real love fest, a warmth. And the next day I was an unknown in Brussels, no friends, no nothing, no warmth from anybody. It was interesting to experience that. And then I thought, what am I going to do? So I ate a lot of chocolate at night, probably gave myself sugar poison. And then decided, okay, I'm going to find someone with a little studio and I'll just go in and create music with no limitations of Jane Siberry. I could whatever I please. So I did that. I wrote about 30 songs. A lot of them ended up on my Three Queens trilogy of records. And then I have maintained that lightness for the most part since then. I think a lot of people know heaviness. Possessions are heavy, and they require certain amount of your energy. So when you let everything go, that energy sort of tiptoes back to you in many ways. And that we're not meant to be so heavy. We're meant to be, become conscious beings that can help the earth realize its own beauty, so to speak. And we're now in real difficult circumstances and more needed than ever. So that I hope that all makes sense that I said it together. But now when I changed my name back to Jane Siberry, or forward to Jane Siberry, I changed my name because the light was shining in a certain way. I changed it to Issa after a lot of thinking. And then I changed my name back to Jane Siberry 3 years later because I was walking down the street in California and the light was the same way, and it said, it's time to change your name to Jane Siberry again. So I did. And now, not so magically, I'm just thinking, I want to be Issa Siberry. I like the sound of that. I like all the S's. I like the 2 R's. So sorry to, bug people, with trying to keep up. What's her name? Oh, whatever. But whatever. The people are welcome to change their names too.
Yeah. Okay, just to understand something here. So this is like in 2006 when you sell all your possessions. I guess you hold on to a few things like a traveling guitar, and then I know some items, precious possessions like your Miles Davis CDs are put into storage. But that's '06. Have you, in the time since, recollected things? Or how light are you these days?
Well, a pretty typical response for me when people want to give me beautiful things is, thank you. I receive it fully. I really appreciate it now, but I can't keep it. Can I pass it on, or will you take it back? So I try to make them feel really my gratitude, but I saw how quickly things built up, Mike, and I had so many beautiful gifts from people and books that I hadn't read, like hundreds of amazing books. I just thought, my to-do list is so huge. I have to either get rid of everything, sweep it off the desk, or just drown in it. I'm up on Manitoulin here now, and I have an Airbnb, and I, I keep things pretty limited.
Tyler Campbell wants me to shout out your temple because it's quoted by Gord Downey in the Live Between Us version of Nautical Disaster. Did you ever hear that?
I think I heard something like that. Something about Gord Downey, yeah. But this is so cool that people have written in. I like the idea of your show.
Oh, thank you.
It's like community.
Exactly. We're actually going to have an in-person, it'll be a 13th time we've done this, but on September 7th from 6 to 9 p.m., we're all collecting in the flat. Well, not all of us, because some have geographical limitations and have to work, whatnot, but many of us will collect in the flesh. We're going to have food from Palma Pasta. We're going to have a beer from Great Lakes Beer, all free, I should point out. And we're just going to be together, and it sounds a bit like a cult, but I assure you it's not a cult. But it is sort of a community, and BS de Resistance is the name of somebody in this community, and BS de Resistance wrote, awesome. I got to meet Jane after her show in Washington, D.C. at the original 930 Club. BS de Resistance, which is a name that makes me laugh, says you are very sweet.
That's nice.
It's nice.
I like the name too, BS. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
BS de Resistance. And winding down now, and then if you have any questions or whatnot, because you've been amazing and I've thoroughly enjoyed this because I find you interesting. I don't apologize for that. But Connie just wrote me to say, and I always butcher this, and I should know because I know the song, but it's Bedjalert and Falling Snow. Let her know that line is amazing. This is from, of course, Let Her Know. But how do you say the name of that place?
Beth Gillard. It's Welsh.
Right.
Beth Gillard. I think it means faithful dog. Beth or Gillard maybe means dog, but faithful dog. It's a beautiful story if you look it up.
I will, and I did butcher that, and I apologize. I recently was visited by Bob Wiseman, and there's an artist, an interesting guy, and it was quite the chat. But I would just ask you what Bob's like, because you sing on his Presented by Lake Michigan Soda, his song from 1991. And what do you think of Bob Wiseman?
Oh, I love him. He's original, and I always appreciate that. I don't think we made a good musical pair because he likes to shock and dissonate or whatever. And there's no room for that in my music. So it felt like a bit of a conflict there, which doesn't mean I don't like dissonance, et cetera, and tension. But it just wasn't a great musical balance. But I really, really appreciate him and the way he thinks. And he has a big heart. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely an interesting guy for sure. I just chatted earlier today with Chris Tate because he's going to come on. He's from Chalk Circle. And I pulled Blue Heaven to play for when he comes on because you really make that song. You're on Blue Heaven and it sounds beautiful.
God, I'm reminding me of all these things I've done. Sort of come and go.
Well, Jane, I feel I should let you come and go. You've been amazing. If you have any questions, of course, I'm here for you. But I got to say thank you so much. I'm checking the clock, and it looks like I took an hour of your time. And to be honest, I could have taken much longer. But you were very giving with your time, and I appreciate it.
When I really don't appreciate having my time taken is when I'm figuring out instructions that were poorly written. I'm really appreciative and impressed by your show and the way you are pumping through all these questions. And I'm pleased to say hello to all these people too. That's really cool. This is good.
When and how can we hear new music, be it by Jane Siberry or Issa Siberry? Where will we hear this?
I don't know. I'm just working on the record. I just did a week of recording, a week of touring, which helped fund the next few spates of recording. And I'm just going to keep going. I don't know when or how I'll release it or if. I just feel I have to take one step at a time, keep myself anchored, and it'll be surprising to me and others who might like to know what happens. But life is better than it ever has been because of how I am now, I think, or how I'm working. Really, really grateful and impressed. I love people like I never used to. I think people are amazing, and the depth and the good work that's being done silently, just in a lobby with a stranger, who knows? But it's I feel in love with people most of the time, and I wish everyone of the very, very best. That's my final comment, and I'm not taking it back.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You're fascinating, and continued success. And you seem happy, and that's what makes me happy. You just seem happy. So that's everything.
You said that's beautiful. Well, I wish you all the best, Mike. And I didn't know about you before, but I'll be watching for you, and I wish you the very best. Thanks for what you're doing.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,314th show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. Jane is at Jane Siberry. Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery are at Great Lakes Beer. Palma Pasta is at Palma Pasta. Getting Hip to the Hip is at Getting Hip Pod. Recycle My Electronics are at EPRA_Canada. Pumpkins After Dark are at Pumpkins Dark. And Ridley Funeral Home are at Ridley FH. See you all Monday when my special guest is Claude Faig.
Well, I wanna take a streetcar downtown, read Henry Miller and wander around, and drink some Guinness from a tin. 'Cause my UI check has just come in. Where you been? Because everything is coming up rosy and green. Yeah, the wind is cold, but the smell of snow warms me today. And your smile is fine, and it's just like mine, and it won't go away. 'Cause everything is rosy and green. Well, you've been under my skin for more than 8 years. It's been 8 years of laughter and 8 years of tears. And I don't know what the future can hold or will do for me and you. But I'm a much better man for having known you. Oh, you know that's true, because everything is coming up rosy and green. Yeah, the wind is cold, but the smell of snow warms me today. And your smile is fine, and it's just like mine, and it won't go away. 'Cause everything is rosy and green. Well, I've been told that there's a sucker born every day. But I wonder who. Yeah, I wonder who. Maybe the one who doesn't realize there's 1,000 shades of gray. 'Cause I know that's true, yes I do. I know it's true, yeah. I know it's true. How about you? While they're picking up trash and they're putting down roads, and they're brokering stocks, the class struggle explodes. And I'll play this guitar just the best that I can.